It took a while, but it's finally here. We are officially on the road to WrestleMania 37. What's going on, everyone? Good mic work back at you for day number 1 of 8 consecutive days of streaming here on the YouTube channel. It's going to be a blast. Even if the product sucks, like a few of you have already pointed out in the chat since we've been live here, we're going to make the best of it here on the channel. We're going to have a good time. We're going to be up here every night, tonight, tomorrow after the Hall of Fame, both nights to take over, SmackDown with predictions, both nights of Mania. It's going to be a hoot. It's going to be a long week. It's going to be a fun week. And we are going to make the best of it, even though we have not really had very good shows leading up to WrestleMania at this point. The best we can hope for is that WWE and everybody involved here just comes through. Both nights 1 and 2 of WrestleMania will be great. It will be a good feeling to get fans back in the arena and get that feeling of, you know, normalcy again, sort of. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cool things happening on WrestleMania. But if everybody can pull together and make the show good as a whole, I guess it'll make up for all the shitty build. But there's a lot of people not too terribly excited about this year's Mania. Plus, we're still in this pandemic, you know, technically, even though it's not quite over yet. We're only at a, you know, half capacity or whatever it's going to be at WrestleMania. No fans back in the arena yet. So we're not quite there yet. Maybe next year we will be. But either way, I think there's potential to see positivity in this weekend. So we're going to do our best here to have fun with it and have a great week on the channel. I am completely off. I am 100% devoted to wrestling, YouTube, and you guys this week. Told my job, you ain't going to see me for 8 days. Goodbye. So wrap things up over the weekend, and I am now here to just enjoy wrestling, enjoy YouTubing, enjoy snacks, and enjoy cold beverages. So cheers to everybody out there. I'm going to crack open this Steve Austin Broken Skull IPA and sip on this as we talk about the final Raw before WrestleMania. How weird was it to hear them say this Saturday at WrestleMania? They hammered that shit into your heads tonight and just doesn't sound right, you know? This Saturday at WrestleMania. So we got a lot happening. We'll be previewing both nights of WrestleMania, obviously, and we'll talk about the show here. But, you know, again, for the most part, kind of largely skippable. Just, you know, a few little added things at the end here to a lot of these issues and these feuds and these storylines leading into the show. But I believe this was taped, I think, on Friday. I'm not 100% sure on that, but this is the end of the Tropicana Field version of the Thunderdome. They are heading over, apparently, to the Yuengling Center, even though I've still heard nothing, confirmation from WWE on that. I think that's what the plan is. And they'll be there, I guess, this Monday for WrestleMania, unless, of course, they have fucking taped that too. I sure hope not. Anyway, we'll be talking about it all. We'll be talking about this Friday's SmackDown as well, with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal and the tag match taking place there. We'll be previewing the Hall of Fame for tomorrow. I'll be up here doing a review after that. And I guess tomorrow night, during the Hall of Fame review, I will tie in my NXT TakeOver predictions. I don't really have those really written down yet, so I'll look at the card tonight, get everything prepped for that tomorrow, and then after we're done with the Hall of Fame, I'll bust those out. Maybe can even chop those out and upload those as a standalone video if I feel like it. So we'll talk about TakeOver probably tomorrow. But luckily, if I forget to talk about something one night, you're going to get me the next night, because it's a whole lot of good mic work and it's a whole lot of my bald ass head. So buckle up. Let me say hi to everybody that has here in the chat and has been here waiting for me before I got here. Good to see JJ Leg in the house, and Melissa, and Ryan, and Mike McGee. And Deshaun is here. You just sent me some crazy gifs with my face superimposed on Austin. That is crazy. Let me shoot that a retweet real quick and give it an oh hell yeah. That's actually kind of eerie. Those face app things are weird. Really weird. Technology, man, I'll tell you. But good to see you in here, brother. I appreciate it. Gamer Boy is here. Crush the Crusher. George Morris is back with $5 right off the bat. Hey, Greg, 0 out of 10. WWE is getting worse. Something to wrestle with is getting worse. WWE on Peacock is getting worse. Can it really get worse? I thought it was bad. It's only been there a couple weeks. And Farting in Town is worse. I don't know, man. Farting in Town is fabulous. I enjoy it, especially when I'm in close proximity to other people. I do it a lot in the restaurant business. It's called crop dusting. When there's a table that's camping out and I'm locking up and I need to get them the hell out of there, I go in the back in the kitchen, find myself a crab cake, maybe wash it down with some broccoli, walk past the table, and let them know what's inside of me. And they usually get right the hell out. So I kind of think it's fun. So it's not really getting worse, at least in my life. I'm sorry to hear that farting is getting worse in yours. Best of luck, George Morris. Hopefully one day you will find the fun in farting once again. You're back with 2 more. Have you heard Kurt Angle's new podcast with Conrad? No, I wish I have, because a lot of people have said good things. I will try my best to check it out. I love Angle's stories. So once I find time, man, I definitely will. I need to go on a road trip or something and knock a few of those out, or at least to do it when I'm trying to commute to work and things like that. And Deshaun with $2 from you, man. Appreciate that. Remember when Go Home Raw Manias were must-see TV? I do, man. There's been some big Go Home Mania Raws, especially back in the day. And what you always remember the most about those shows is the energy. Because it's kind of like your last week to set up your big matches, and a lot, WrestleMania is usually built up to be a big deal. And there's just, there's just kind of this vibe. There's this, this aura in the audience, and we're all just jacked and ready. And even though things are in the Thunderdome and WWE doesn't have to take full responsibility for shit sucking, because still no fans there does play a role. But man, this is some of the most lazy booking I've ever seen in terms of building storylines and developing issues and character development and all this stuff going into WrestleMania. They literally just slapped it together. And it's probably, like I said, going to turn out to be a pretty good show, but it's not going to have anything to do with WWE's, good booking or forward planning or anything like that. It's going to all fall on the shoulders of the talent to go out there and make the show fucking awesome. And I think they are probably going to do it, knowing this group of men and women. So, but in terms of getting us there, building us up, the anticipation, building excitement for the show, and nothing compared to what it used to be. Not even close. Not even the same goddamn ballpark, planet, universe even. Just completely different realities there. My God. Joshua Aparicio, appreciate 5 early from you as well. I think the Andre the Giant Battle Royal will be in the main card next year, because by the time the Iron Sheik makes it to the ring, it would be Mania 38. That's true. That's true. Isn't that the line that Bobby Heenan delivered, I think, in the gimmick Battle Royal? Could be. It's a shame, though. I mean, the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, to me, has already kind of just been useless, but I don't want to go as far as to bump it off the card. I was probably one of the biggest fans of that announcement when it was initially made. The inner fan, the young fan in me, the 80s fan, marked out for that. I'm like, that's a really good idea. Make a Battle Royal. Some of my earliest memories of wrestling involve Andre the Giant in Battle Royals, and naming it after him, is something that's close to my heart. Plus, Andre has been in a couple of these himself at WrestleMania. So for him to, for that to be named after him, and them to make it a annual thing at WrestleMania, and basically make the winner, give that winner like a little bit of a push, and it can help elevate somebody. In theory and in principle, it all worked out well, and I had a great first-time winner in Cesaro, body slamming the Big Show over the top rope. I had high hopes for the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and it felt like immediately after that, it was, just right down the shitter. Has meant nothing, and it's been a joke in most cases, and now they've given up on it and bumped it completely off of WrestleMania and stuck it on SmackDown instead. I don't care if they call it a WrestleMania edition of SmackDown. It's bullshit, and it sucks that it's been regulated to that. But I just can't believe there's not room for it on the main card. I understand that, there might not be kickoff matches, and that's fine. This match shouldn't be a kickoff match anyway, because I think the Andre Battle Royal was bumped to the kickoff in the past few years too, correct? So I don't think it should even be on the kickoff. I think in 2 nights of WrestleMania, there should be room to squeeze this thing in there. The fact that they can't find that is pretty incredible. And I think they're just using it as a cheap way to build up a SmackDown that otherwise doesn't have a whole lot going on that they haven't already done on television. And it sucks. Just sucks. Wish the Battle Royal meant more, but WWE ruined it before it even got off the ground. Typical WWE, right? Pardon me, excuse my coughing. Let me go back up here and reconnect with where I was. Comedic Genius, appreciate the 2 from you. Ew, Monday Night Raw, but hey, it's Mania week. Exactly. Might not be the best Monday Night Raw we've ever seen, but we're going to make the goddamn best of it tonight. I promise you that. And we'll be talking about all the results and all of the good, the bad, and how high the New Day and Riddle was in their segment. That was pretty funny. There was a couple of good things on the show. How Wheezy is here. Good to see you, man. Appreciate the 5. Have you ever seen 8 Crazy Nights? Well, I'm ready for 8 Crazy Nights of good mic work. I am off all week from work as well. That's awesome. Anybody else who actually took time off to watch wrestling, enjoy your vacation. I know I will. I have never seen 8 Crazy Nights. Is that a Christmas movie or is that an Adam Sandler movie? Heard of it. Yeah, I think it might be Sandler. I don't remember. Never saw it, though. But yeah, 8 Crazy Nights here on the channel. That's for show. Good to see you in here, Reese Jones. Appreciate you being here. Divine Ricks, thanks for $5 from you. Hey, Greg, I like Drew versus Lashley, but I hope Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair is the main event on Saturday. Cheers to WrestleMania week. I've seen that suggested a lot. I don't disagree with it at all, especially when you think about, we talked about this on Saturday, the very first person to come out, the first wrestler, star, whatever, to come out in front of fans, who is going to get that accolade? Who is going to get to be that person. And I was speculating on Saturday that I was very, very concerned and pretty much convinced that it was probably going to be Hulk Hogan. But if it's a match, or if it turns out to be a match, I'm perfectly on board with Drew McIntyre being that person, because honestly, there's something about Drew that makes me think that he's on the cusp of fans turning on him. That's why I pitched the idea of a double turn a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if you did a Austin, maybe not, nobody can recreate Austin Brett, but if you did something with McIntyre and Lashley where there was a double turn, where McIntyre maybe cheats to win, maybe even gets help from his old pal Sheamus to win the title. Sheamus and Drew might have double gold there with the two friends. They had to battle and go through all of that to get to the top and to be successful together, and now they're WWE and US champions respectively. And maybe Sheamus helps him out or something like that. He turns heel, and now Lashley is a babyface in the process. Otherwise, I worry that McIntyre might not be treated very kindly by the audience at Raymond James. But I think he has a pretty good chance of being cheered if he's the first one out there, because fans are just going to be ready to see shit. And when they hear somebody's music play, it doesn't really matter. I can't imagine the fans being so fucking cynical that the first time back they're going to boo the first person that comes out, especially when Drew isn't even that bad. He's not like Roman bad. There's no real true reason to dislike the guy. It's just what the fans do. Once they get tired of you, they're over you, and they start figuring out ways why you're not worthy and shit like that. It's in their goddamn DNA. So even as spiteful and as just negative spirited as the fans usually are, I still can't even see them booing this guy if he's the first person out there. He might look like a fucking star walking out there first, getting that huge ovation from the audience, that big moment, back to business. I think McIntyre would be the perfect guy to get that honor, to be back, especially since last year the whole WrestleMania was supposed to be built around him. This year he comes out first, I think is almost kind of like appropriate. So I'd be perfectly fine with them moving, let's say, Sasha and Bianca Belair to the main event of night one. Aren't they on night one? Or is Ripley and Asuka night? No, Ripley and Asuka, I believe, is night two. At least they were advertised for that originally. So if it's Sasha and Bianca, then have them main event. And give Drew, and it's almost like an everybody wins. You have women main eventing another WrestleMania again. And, you get Drew in a pretty good spot to be in there, coming out first in front of the fans and all of that. So people who have suggested that, I agree. I think that would be a perfect thing to do and probably the right thing to do. Otherwise, I think they're going to give that first reaction from the audience. They're going to give that shit to Hulk Hogan. And how much does that make your blood boil? Oh my God, I know we're going to see that shit too. But I'm into something like that going on. Divine for sure. Off Leather Wings, appreciate 5 from you. 2 months into my referee career, and I've ref 2 matches for the Sandman so far. Nice. Good luck to you. I've known some referees in my time. You should have some interesting stories and some fun tales to tell. Remember to shake everybody's hand. Very important. Deshaun Robinson, appreciate 5 more from you again, dude. What made me do those reface picks was because I had some Stone Cold IPA coming for this weekend. Well, good. Well, cheers to you. I got one of those open right now. Just found out that even though I spent nearly $100 on a case of this not long ago through the mail, the Bevmo, less than 1 mile from my house, fucking has it. Go figure. Typical Greg. So it looks like I will now have an endless supply of Broken Skull IPA because it's right down the road from me. I'm very, very excited. Who's next? Desmond the Wolf, appreciate 5 from you, dude. If the government shut down the entire internet, would wrestling ratings go up or down? There's a good question, or there's a whole good topic for an entire video. Would wrestling ratings go up or down? I'd probably say they would have to naturally just go up a little bit from the people who watch wrestling on the internet, who use the internet to watch wrestling. Like I do. Like I watch on an AT&T app that's tied into my phone. I don't think when I watch Raw, I don't think that factors into their rating, if I'm not mistaken. How does the ratings work? Do you still have to have like an old Nielsen box? Like back in the day, you'd have to even have your rating count, you'd have to have like a box on your shit. So I don't even know how the ratings really factor in, but I'm not watching Raw on a typical cable station or a cable service. I just have an app that I stream these channels on, so I don't know. So if people like me, if that now goes away and I have no choice but to order cable again like the old days and watch Raw, then yes, I think the wrestling ratings will go up from that, but I don't know if they'll go up due to an increase of interest. That I think will take a while, but I think in time, if wrestling can kind of reinvent itself without the use of the internet, they are fucking everything up. I think in time, wrestling could get good again. So my instinct tells me yes. They would. It might not be overnight, but it would take a while. But let's not think about the world with no internet, because I'd be bored as shit without the internet. What would I do? We'd never see each other again. I'd be so sad. Anyway, Mike McGee, what's up? Thanks for 2 from you. Which match steals the show? For you, Raw Tag Team titles. Interesting pick. I think Omos is going to be very impressive. And I've talked about this before. The WWE must have big plans for him because think of the professionals he is surrounded by here. He is in great hands with veterans like Kofi and AJ and Xavier. They're going to probably make him look very good all the way around. So they've placed him, I think, in very, very capable hands to where if they want a guy to, be in a match with experienced people that are going to take care of him and make him look good and they can rely on, I don't think they can pick, a better kind of handful of guys. They'll take care of him, probably make them look like $1 million. And I think it's a all but guarantee, especially based on what we saw with the Xavier and AJ Styles match tonight, that Omos is going to win the tag team titles. As a matter of fact, I sent out a tweet congratulating him on his tag team title victory at WrestleMania. I can't see any scenario where the New Day survives that match, So he'll be champs. You could be right there. For me, though, I don't know if it's both nights have to have a match that steals the show. Whatever night Owens and Sami Zayn are on, there's something about those two together, man. I think that they're going to go all out because they're working together, and they can trust each other's judgment. It should be a crazy fucking match. I'm excited, provided they give him time. You know what I mean? Divine Ricks, appreciate 5 more from you as well. To me, the biggest WrestleMania build going into WrestleMania is Randy Orton versus The Fiend, but I agree with you, Greg. The build of this year, WrestleMania, is lazy. They've put some time and energy into that one. I mean, that's encompassed a whole lot, months and months with various, different chapters. And, one guy's a heel at one point, the other's a face. Now it seems like it's reversed. One guy gets burned, resurrected. Alexa Bliss is getting crazier and crazier and more zombie-like with each passing week on TV, and there's layers here and all of that, and I like it. I'm surprised they didn't do any in-ring stuff tonight. All they did concerning all of them is just a recap, I think. No other weird segment or anything like that, so we'll have to wait till Mania to get the conclusion there. But yeah, all that stuff's been pretty good, but the rest of it just doesn't seem like, like you think about Rhea Ripley and Asuka, like how that could have come together. So many better ways to do that than how they did it. And just, even Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, even though I love the match and think it's going to be great, they kind of just threw those together at the last minute too. Like really the only reason they're facing each other is because Owens wants to beat sense into Sami Zayn. It's not really a very big issue there. Like they've had more deeper problems before in their career, I think, than they do now. But I still think the match will be entertaining as hell, and I've never been higher on Sami in my life than I am right now. And Cesaro and Seth is a good option there too. That's said to be opening the show. That could be okay. Was it Seth and Randy Orton? Did they open at Mania 31, or was that a different? I just remember the big, huge RKO. I want to say that was the opening match, but might have been second. I don't remember. But if that's the word on the street, then Cesaro and Seth opening, that's cool with me. Who gets the first reaction, Seth or Cesaro? Oh, yeah, I guess we still don't have a stipulation for The Fiend and Randy Orton, do we? That's odd. That is kind of odd. Anyway, let's start getting into the Raw results since I was here answering a ton of Super Chats. Appreciate all the early support there. If you could show even more support and smash that thumbs up button, I would very, very much appreciate it. Like I said, you're going to get me every day all the way through next week's Monday Night Raw. So every single day, including next week, 1 week from today, we'll be up here talking about every show going on this week. So far on my channel, I only have the link up for tomorrow's Hall of Fame. That's up there right now, so please go over there, set your reminder, and give the video an early like. We'll be up tomorrow after the Hall of Fame. Later on tonight, I will have the links posted for nights 1 and 2 of TakeOver. Probably tomorrow, I'll have the links posted for Friday night's predictions video and SmackDown review, and probably the weekend. So within the next day or so, I'll have the rest of the links provided on my channel. So if you are here for the first time, subscribe. And make sure you hit your notifications for all those videos. Links will be up here, will be added as we go here in the next couple of days. So just keep a lookout. I'm going to be busting all of that, most of that out tonight and get it up to you. But tomorrow I'm looking forward to the Hall of Fame. It's going to be different, but I'm sure there will be a lot of stories to share and memories and stuff like that. I love talking about like old school wrestlers and stuff. So it'll be fun to share Davey Boy Smith memories and Kane and shit like that tomorrow. So make sure you're here to talk about the Hall of Fame as we trek closer to WrestleMania. That will wrap up the tidbits there. We'll just get into Raw now. That's right, Isaac. Thank you. Ladder match open 31. Seth Randy was after that. In my head, it feels like an opener. I don't know why. So we'll see if it's Cesaro and Seth tomorrow, or I'm sorry, on at WrestleMania. That'll be perfectly fine with me. All right, so let's talk about Monday Night Raw. This was a canned show. I believe they taped this last Friday. Not totally sure, though. And I think they're done with the Thunderdome there now officially at Tropicana. So we had Drew McIntyre coming out to open the show, cut a promo talking about his match coming up here this Saturday. It was very weird to hear them say this Saturday at WrestleMania. Still not totally used to that. And talked about the similarities between the two, but even went on to show a little bit of respect. And that might be one part of Drew's, babyface persona that I don't like. He's being awfully almost like understanding of some of the dirty things that's been done to him. Like Bobby Lashley screwed him over at the Elimination Chamber. After he survived that match, Lashley attacked him, screwed him, allowed The Miz to come in and cash in the briefcase. And McIntyre never really seemed that pissed about it. Like not as pissed as he should be. And here he is again. You'd think he'd be out for revenge. You screwed me so bad and now you're trying to hire people to take me out. But still, he still shows Lashley respect. He goes, we're going to beat the hell out of each other. Just like he said to Sheamus. Same thing. Like, we're going to beat the hell out of each other. Not, I'm going to beat the hell out of you. And I almost think like he's showing him more respect than he should. He should be pissed. If I'm Drew McIntyre, I'm looking at Bobby Lashley as a guy that's walking around with my championship title. And the motherfucker stole it from me. So he's going down at WrestleMania. I'm going to kill him and get this belt back. And I know Drew was saying things like, I'll sacrifice everything and this and that, but you don't believe it. He doesn't seem to be quite as mad. He almost seems like, like he's just a little bit too chill about this whole situation. Not intense enough for me, which is why I think a double turn would be really good. Because McIntyre, every time he tries to do the right thing, he keeps getting screwed over. So he needs to have a little bit more of an edge to him. And I think sometime in 2021, I fully expect McIntyre to be a heel. I think he has to in some ways. We'll see. Unless after WrestleMania, they move Roman over to the show. Who knows what they wind up doing. But I feel like McIntyre might be headed for a heel turn at some point. Just don't know if they'll do it at Mania or whatever. But I'm not really liking what I'm hearing out of him. I just want to hear a little bit more anger. You know what I mean? So Lashley then comes out and even shows a tiny bit of respect towards McIntyre as well. Says, you're a good champ, but it's my time now. And they go back and forth a little bit. McIntyre then just proposes the fight right there. We don't need to wait until WrestleMania. We'll just do it right here. MVP steps in. He's like, no, we're going to wait or whatever. That prompts Baron Corbin to come out. Now Corbin is advertised to face Drew McIntyre in the main event. And he basically just runs his his trap about the match later on with Drew. And we go to commercial. So that was kind of the last, sort of the last verbal interaction there between Lashley and McIntyre, and it's all set up for this Saturday. Now, the Corbin match, he showed up last week. That was kind of out of nowhere. We thought about and speculated that maybe he could be a new member of the Hurt Business. As crazy as it sounds, I think he'd be a good fit there, because he does have some, legit fighting experience. He's big. He likes to wear suits. And like Corbin or not, he's pretty tough and he can always deliver good matches. The one thing I knew we were going to get out of the main event tonight was a good match. I knew 100% that Corbin was going to give McIntyre a really solid match and a really solid tune-up victory against a quality opponent heading into WrestleMania. That's all really I felt like Baron Corbin was there to do, and he did his job. So if they do insert him or make him a member of the Hurt Business, I'd actually be all right with that in theory and just see how it goes. Hopefully it would be... Hopefully it'll be all right. But if it turns out to be he was just there for this and he goes back to SmackDown, I suppose that's fine too. And it's still up in the air what's going on with the Hurt Business because they kind of broke up last week. And Lashley would have all sorts of problems with Cedric and Shelton tonight. After that, we go backstage after the commercial, and we've got New Day at Gorilla with Matt Riddle. Now, Riddle, of course, is right off of last week where he forgot his lines. Now, it was reported this week that I guess last week when he forgot his lines, that was a pre-tape. So they had the option to reshoot that or not air it. And apparently like Vince, I guess the story was Vince and Bruce thought it was hilarious, so they left it in. So that's kind of a relief because I was almost worried. Oh, and the report said that Riddle and Asuka were both praised for the way they handled it. I kind of had a completely different view of it. I was worried that Riddle was like going to get some heat for this, for just riding off. And like, you know, luckily with Riddle's character, it almost fit. Like you almost really didn't notice, you know, what was going on. But at the same time, just to ride off live TV and just leave Asuka there high and dry for her just to look around like, what the fuck? I was actually worried that that was going to cause some problems or they're going to get chastised for that. And apparently it was the exact opposite. So I found that to be a funny story. And this backstage deal he's doing with New Day is just, I guess WWE, we talked about this over the weekend, you know, how they just really lack some of that cool factor. So they're dropping a little hints here, you know, a lot of like about getting high, and Riddle says to them, I don't think I've ever seen anybody get that high before. And, you know, I don't think anybody should get that high. And we definitely should get that high at WrestleMania. I don't recommend that. And that was all pretty funny, just a little back and forth there. And Riddle said something about them being so sticky that he's going to need to grind them up before he burns them or whatever he said. Pretty funny shit there. So we go to the ring now. It's Xavier Woods taking on AJ Styles one-on-one. Of course, this is just to set up the New Day and AJ and Omos tag team title match at WrestleMania. Omos is out there standing there. Kofi decides to basically do a divide and conquer type of deal here. Kofi grabs a microphone and just throws it right at Omos, gets him to chase him around a little bit. This distracts AJ Styles, 25-year veteran, still gets distracted by the simplest shit on the outside of the ring. Go figure. Turns his back to look at what's going on, allows Xavier to roll him up and get a distraction roll-up victory against AJ Styles. Brilliant booking, WWE. How do y'all come up with this stuff? After that, we get a Braun Strowman promo. Now, we saw this entire angle a couple of years ago at WrestleMania in the form of Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. Same exact shit, except in that one, it was more of a body-shaming type of deal, where this, it's Shane calling Braun Strowman stupid. What both of them have in common is that they're both, you know, centered around bullying. And I just don't give a shit. Like, I've right from the start here, I'm like, I just felt like it's Vince and Shane backstage. Hey, son, what do you want to do this year at WrestleMania? Well, Pop, if it's okay with you, I'd like to have my annual near-death experience on the grandest stage of them all. Sure, why don't you work with Strowman? Fly off of something. Done. And then they just come up with this stupid ass, so I'm just going to call him stupid. After everything that Strowman has done, just think about how this guy has fallen. You know, where he was a few years ago when he was just owning Roman Reigns and a complete beast and a believable beast, that he was actually scary. You know, when he was on TV screaming and snorting and growling and all that shit and lifting, tipping over ambulances and all this stuff. And now, you know, and then he went way down, and then he kind of bounced back up when he beat Goldberg for the title. But then, you know, ever since then, he's just been, I just don't give a damn about Strowman anymore, like literally at all. And this whole entire angle was ridiculous because, you know, like Strowman is supposed to be the sympathetic baby face, but he's 10 times bigger and stronger and younger than Shane McMahon. This is ridiculous. Everybody wants to see the, you know, the evil prick Shane get what's coming to him. But, you know, we've just seen this whole thing is just, I just can't say anything good about it. The whole build, the whole premise of the angle is just real bad. So Strowman's out there. We get a recap of all the previous week's festivities, Shane calling him stupid, showing the report card, dumping slime on him, all that bullshit. And now Strowman's in the ring, and he says that inside of a cage, there's nowhere to run. Well, yeah, there is. Have you ever seen Shane move? Braun Strowman? I hate to agree with Shane about what he's accusing you of being here, but come on, dude. You know, I don't think Shane McMahon's going to have a whole heck of a lot of trouble escaping the cage. All it's going to take is one drop kick to your kneecap to send you down to a knee, and pshoo, like a cat, Shane's going to be at the top of that cage and on the outside of it before your big ass even gets up. So you should have said Hell in the Cell. You should have said Boiler Room Brawl. You should have said something to where Shane truly cannot get away, even though even in a cell, he'd still get away. So he thinks he's got Shane trapped here, which is funny. And he says he's going to beat the shit out of Shane McMahon and do it for everyone who's been bullied, because all throughout his life, he had people bullying him, which is kind of crazy. Braun Strowman has always been a big guy. You know, when I went to school too. I saw bullying firsthand. I didn't like bullies, but I didn't see too many people foolish enough to bully a grizzly bear like that, you know, who probably doesn't know their own strength. And if they ever did want to put their hands out of you, would probably beat the shit out of you. And I never understood the idea of picking on and bullying somebody so fucking large. So, but I guess it happens. And it happened to Braun Strowman as a kid. And he says that he's going to fight this battle for them and everybody that's, had this shit done to him. So all that's really nice, I guess, in theory, maybe teaches a lesson or a message or promotes a message to maybe your younger viewing audience. Of course, not us, but there are a lot of children watching this, and it does send a strong message to stand up to your bullies, but they also look like assholes at the same time with the bullying that's going on TV. So the same thing a few years ago with Nia Jax. Yes, she got her moment at WrestleMania, but it took a whole lot of fat jokes to get there, until they finally did. So, it's kind of the same thing here. Obviously, Shane is going to go flying off something. Braun will toss him off something. Shane could probably even potentially still win the match if it turns out to be a DQ. Oh, no, it's a cage match. If the referee just stops the match or whatever, and then he'll just continue to berate him and call him stupid on fucking TV the night after WrestleMania. The whole match was pointless. It's probably all built around a stunt by Shane McMahon. So Braun's pretty convinced that at WrestleMania, Shane will get these hands. Shane then comes out, acts like a prick, says Braun Strowman actually made a smart choice booking or picking the stipulation to be the cage match if he was any other man, but he's not any other man. He's a McMahon. And he said that if anybody else is in that cage, they'd probably be screwed, but I'm smarter than you, Strowman. You're stupid. I'm going to figure out a way to beat you anyway. And then he brings out Elias and Jackson Riker. They come to the ring. I believe we go to commercial. We come back, and it's going to be a handicap match. Braun Strowman versus Elias and Jackson Riker as Shane McMahon watches on. And in no big surprise, Strowman makes quick work of the both of them and pins them both and stares down Shane. And yeah, big cage match between Strowman and Shane at WrestleMania, and I literally couldn't give less than a fuck. After that, we had Miz and Morrison decided to do a paint job on Bad Bunny's Bugatti. So Bad Bunny and Damian Priest pull up in this, which they told us 85 times. It's a $3.6 million car. Really, WWE, is that how much it costs? 3.6? Because The Miz said it, Byron Saxton said it, Samoa Joe said it, Tom Phillips said it, everybody said it over and over. 3.6 million, 3.6 million. We get it. It's an expensive car. And you know what? I don't have any sympathy for Bad Bunny, because when you leave your car out like that, of course something like that could happen. I park my Bugatti in a locked garage. That way pieces of shit like the Miz and Morrison can't get to it with their painted fingers. Think. I protect my Bugattis. Sad to see that Bad Bunny is so reckless. So they show up with finger paints, red paint, and they just paint all over the fucking car. And then Bad Bunny comes to find this out. I guess he was cued into what was happening. So he's kind of storming towards his car to go assess the damage. And he gets there and he's all pissed off and he's fuming mad. But then he's attacked from behind by Miz and Morrison. Damian Priest is nowhere around. They beat the shit out of Bad Bunny. Finally, Adam Pearce shows up to break it up, and Priest shows up at the very end. So they beat the hell out of Bad Bunny. Now, we'll skip ahead to later on, since it's all tied in. A couple of segments later, we get a Damian Priest and Bad Bunny promo. And that's when, finally, Damian Priest proposes that this become a tag match. You guys are so tough to attacking Bad Bunny when I'm not around. Why don't we up the ante a little bit, blah, blah, blah. So this is what we thought was going to happen the whole time. And we talked about it here a couple of weeks ago, that they're going to have until the go-home show, I suppose, to make this a tag, because it seems like it's the right thing to do, to put Bad Bunny in a match, but not his friend Damian Priest, who's an actual active wrestler and member of the roster. Like, that's kind of effed, and we talked about that. So I was kind of expecting them to change this into a tag, but then a couple of weeks went by and it was still a singles match. So finally tonight, this has been converted into a tag, which is the right call, which is what they should have done all along. And it's kind of funny just how much time they kill, because this didn't need to be added at the end. You could have added this shit at the very beginning. You could have said it during the first week, it's going to be a tag as soon as you made the match, instead of making it just an issue between Miz and Bad Bunny. So it's now a tag officially. Talk about waiting until the last minute. And then we get a Bad Bunny promo, which I didn't even hate. You know what? I'm like, this guy just got his $3.6 million car painted on. So, of course, he might want to say a couple of things, and he's a little bit pissed. And he did. And I actually had no problem with him talking, because we've read the reports and the stories that he's really well received backstage by the locker room. He seems to be respectful. He's there. He's committed. He's into this. And he seems to take the whole thing seriously. And everybody, I can't think, appreciates his attitude. And he's certainly not a prima donna or anything like that. So most of the roster has had nothing but positive feedback for Bad Bunny. So the fact that they're going to let him cut a promo here, I didn't think was that bad. He went on to shout out all the legends that he loved, like Booker T and Ric Flair and Triple H and Steve Austin. And he said he even used to respect The Miz. I used to respect and love The Miz, but no more after what you did to him. And it was a good promo. My only issue with it is it was long, probably way too long than it needed to be. Him getting out a couple of words. I'm pissed. I'm coming after you. I'm going to get revenge. You're an asshole. I don't respect how you handle yourself and whatever. He could have said a few things and it would have been better. And I still think this was okay. Like, the promo wasn't that bad. I mean, he was definitely putting his all into it. Not sure if I felt it as much as he was hoping I would feel it, but I appreciate, the kind of the effort. I just think that they gave him about 3 to 4 minutes too much to say. And he could have kept it a lot simpler than that for The Miz and Morrison to finally appear on the Tron and make fun of him a little bit more and say that Bad Bunny doesn't belong here and at WrestleMania you're going down. So, of course, at WrestleMania, Miz and Morrison are going to get their ass whooped. That's for sure. Yeah, multiple Bugattis. I got a few. I got a white one. I got a black one. Ain't nobody painting my Bugattis. That's for sure. Let's go back up. All right, we're good. All right, nice. Bruce Lee, bitch. That's true. It's WrestleMania week. Yeah, Chick Magnet Joe. I think the Bugatti was 3.6. You like Peacock? Good mic work? I don't know. Peacock's just there. We need it to watch WWE. I don't watch a ton of it anyway to be too pissed off about it. But yeah, I know Peacock has got some problems. But unfortunately, Peacock has got me by the balls. If I want to watch WrestleMania, I got to have the cock. So nothing I can do about it. I just do it. Eric Draven, bet that wasn't Bunny's real car. Oh, yeah, probably not. They probably just rent these. I do think that Corvette they fucked up was really Vince's back in the day from what I heard. But yeah, I'm sure you can just rent these. They do that all the time. Where did they get all of those, like Eddie Guerrero and JBL and Alberto Del Rio cars? They had to have gotten them from somewhere. And it obviously wasn't paint. Hopefully that was just some ketchup or something that would not fuck up the paint job, whatever they put on there. But yeah, 20 grand a day. Damn, what a weird waste of money. Yeah, whatever that name is, what he says. Bad Bunny for life. Anyway, what was next on Raw after that? I kind of skipped ahead to that Bunny and Cedric promo. I'm sorry, Bunny and Damian Priest promo because I wanted to get that out of the way. And then after the Bad Bunny car segment, we go to the tag team match. Now, this is Nia Jax and Shayna Bazler taking on Asuka and Rhea Ripley. I complained about this last week that I hate when baby faces have a match together. They always got to team them up. It's so overdone. Here we go again. Luckily, the tag titles were not on the line this time, and it was basically going to be centered around Asuka and Ripley not getting along because last week at the contract signing, Ripley threw the table into Asuka's face, and there's a lot of bad blood there. So they didn't really look at each other. They both made their entrances and were waiting for the champs to come out, and they didn't really acknowledge each other very much. Very uncooperative. Rhea Ripley didn't want to tag in at first, but then blind tagged herself in later on, basically saying, I'm going to do it on my own time type of deal. Ripley and Nia Jax go at it a little bit, which was kind of cool that, she didn't really back down from Nia. And then she goes into tagging Asuka, but Asuka doesn't want it, just like Ripley didn't earlier on. A lot of just dissension in the team. Eventually, Asuka finds herself climbing up to the top rope. Rhea Ripley gets up there and just pushes her off to the outside to the floor, and then picks her up on the floor and slams her down on the floor, and then tosses her in the ring. And Shayna, I think, hits her with a knee strike or something, I believe, and pins Asuka for the win. So, of course, this was just a way to pin another champion, like WWE likes to do. Now, there was a high probability that a champion was going to get pinned in this match anyway, since they were all champions. But I don't know, just like they threw this match together. I think Ripley and Asuka could be bigger than it is. And I think it's already going to be a pretty good and a pretty big match. But I think it could be even bigger if some thought and effort was put into it. I guess Charlotte played a role there with everything going on with her and, now apparently being off the card. And they just brought in Ripley to have that match with Asuka now, I guess, because it doesn't look like Charlotte's going to be able to worm her way in now unless she shows up on SmackDown. But I think we might have heard about that in the spoilers, because I do believe SmackDown was taped. I do love the idea of having, because there's another, major star right now that's not currently booked for Mania, and that's Bayley. And she has a talk show segment. They don't even have her doing a talk show segment at WrestleMania. They literally have her doing nothing. So I do like the idea of having one of them come out and challenge the other and just do a Bayley versus Charlotte interpromotional one-on-one match or something. I'd be fine with that. And I loved the idea we talked about on Saturday. Of course, the big news of Chris Jericho appearing on Broken Skull Sessions. And I mentioned on Saturday that, look, I know it's a highly unlikely, but I would not completely put it out of the question or rule out or keep it off the table that Jericho could potentially show his face somehow at WrestleMania, whether he sits there in the crowd or he's up in one of the press boxes, or maybe they show an advertisement for Broken Skull Sessions on WrestleMania, or if he appeared on night one to help hype the debut of that the next day on Peacock, or, if they wanted to go even crazier and have what Barry suggested in the chat on Saturday, do a Ding Dong Hello segment with Jericho. How fucking fun was that be? Do it on night one so Jericho can plug the Broken Skull Sessions thing, and that would just be insane. You'd have to have two companies coming together and agree to do this, and it'd have to be cool with everybody. And I know it's kind of unlikely, but look, WrestleMania, we usually get some sort of big, crazy surprise. Sometimes we don't feel like we're getting any of that. Raul, I mentioned WrestleMania 19, how Piper just randomly came out. WrestleMania 33, the Hardy Boys came back. 31, Seth cashed in the briefcase, something crazy. We're like, holy shit, or whatever. And just having Jericho just randomly show up at WrestleMania just for fun, just to create buzz and just get the whole wrestling world talking would be a lot of fun. But I don't know if that's even possible, but don't rule it out. But whatever goes on, I kind of think it's fucked up that both Charlotte and Bayley are both off the card. At least Charlotte has reasons for her not being on the card with everything going on there. But Bayley, what's their excuse there? Man, oh man, they better have Bayley doing something there somewhere, at least a Ding Dong Hello. Otherwise, it's going to be a disappointment. Yeah, remember the original plan of Lacey Charlotte? Lacey got pregnant too. Jesus. It would have been interesting if Omega was on Austin's podcast. Yeah, it would definitely be interesting. I don't think that's something WWE would do. Jericho was there primarily because he had so many years in WWE. There's a lot to talk about. I don't know what he would really discuss with Omega that they would feel comfortable with discussing. I don't know. Would be interesting though, but that door now being kicked in, it opens up more possibilities for maybe people coming on there. Maybe even Christian can come back or something. Who knows? Anyway, where did we leave off in the Raw results? We just talked about the tag team match with Asuka, Ripley, Nia, and Shayna. After that, we get Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander confronting MVP backstage. They kind of push him up against the crates, and they get in his face, and they basically talk about how, they were always there for him, and he fucked him over, and really intimidating him. And I'm looking at Shelton, and I'm looking at Cedric, and I'm like, this is what I want to see from them. I know that the backlash on the Hurt Business breaking up has been extremely negative all week, and I was one of the biggest pushers of the Hurt Business. I loved the faction. I wanted them to stay together and stay strong for many months to come. But one issue I did have with the faction is that as awesome as they are and as good that they looked, Cedric and Shelton have been weak links. They lose all the time. And this is WWE's fault. They should have everybody here look relatively strong. I know you can't win every match, but come on. It seemed like Shelton and Cedric were losing almost immediately upon entering the faction, and even when they were tag team champions. There was dissension even the same night they won the titles, and then I think the very next week, the very next 2 weeks after they won the belts, they actually lost on TV. They were constantly losing, and they weren't looking as strong as Bobby Lashley or MVP for that matter. They looked like they were the front centerpieces of the Hurt Business. The supporting cast weren't cutting the mustard, and that drove me crazy about the Hurt Business because I think Shelton and Cedric should be at least somewhat protected. Of course, not like Lashley, but come on, at least have these guys win some matches, be somewhat dominant, be a real faction that other members of the roster are a little bit terrified of. And I think the weakness of Shelton and Cedric have really hurt the overall strength of the faction. So the fact that they were kind of ending this, I am with everybody else that I think it's stupid, but I also don't think that it's that much of a surprise because I feel like they've been planting the seeds for this for a while with Shelton and Cedric, especially Cedric. He's done a couple of things that kind of turned some heads with the Hurt Business and kind of confused them a little bit. He's kind of been going rogue a couple of times, and it has created some dissension, and that has been there for a while. So the fact that this all imploded is not as shocking to me, but I'm equally, I'm with everybody in terms of not wanting it to happen. I wish they would have treated Cedric and Shelton better. So when I saw them confronted MVP tonight and the way they did it, you know, kind of getting in his face like that, I'm like, that's the Shelton and Cedric I want to see. You guys almost seem believable now. You guys seem like you actually belong in the Hurt Business, you know, and shit, maybe they can find their way back in there by proving themselves to MVP or whatever. So I think they close the intimidation deal with Shelton saying something like, keep your crippled ass out of the way, because Cedric has got a match later on with Bobby Lashley. I think he's heading to the ring for that right there. So after that, they walk away. MVP, right after that traumatic experience, is immediately interviewed, and he's and says that he made those guys, and he's the reason that they, you know, even became, you know, credible threats and champions on the roster. Lashley then finally shows up. He's pissed off. Yo, what was that about, man? And says he's going to go out there and break Cedric in half. So Lashley is pissed, and he's heading to the ring to deal with Cedric Alexander. After that, we get Nia Jax and Shayna Bazler backstage. They're celebrating their victory. They are now interviewed about a new match that was added to WrestleMania on night one. It's going to be a women's tag team Turmoil match to determine a new #1 contender for the women's tag team titles to face Nia Jax and Shayna Bazler on night 2 of WrestleMania. So coming up on Saturday, we're going to get Lana and Naomi, Mandy and Dana Brooke, Tamina and Natalya, and Ruby and Liv, Riot Squad, all in a tag team Turmoil match. So this was kind of made right off the heels of some criticisms of WrestleMania about not having very many women on the show. They just have the 2 big women's matches, and I believe that's it. Now they've added this tag, which does add a group of women, but it's almost like WWE's way of saying, oh, what, they're bitching about not too many women? Just throw 12 of them in a match. It literally feels like what they did here. So we get a bullshit tag team Turmoil thing that's going to happen on Saturday. Who's going to win that? Who cares? They all showed up. Lana and Naomi did. Mandy and Dana did. Tamina and Natty, Ruby and Liv. Nia Jax was actually the most entertaining person in this entire segment, because when they were interviewed and asked the big long question, what do you think about the tag team title #1 contenders match? And Nia was like, whoa, talk about the longest question ever. What a stupid question to ask. And then she basically explains later on, when all the women are there, she acts like she's mad and she's cutting a promo, but really she's directed by WWE to explain the rules of what's going on. All these women face on Saturday. The winners face the champs on Sunday, night 2. So that's going on there with the tag match. At least that's technically 2 more matches now added to the card, which is what I think it needed. Definitely needed something, because I think the card has been kind of light. I like the fact that neither one of these shows are going to be like 5-6 hours long. They're probably going to be 3 each, I think, because there's only like 6. Well, I guess now there's 7, I believe. Could be wrong. I believe there's 7 matches now with these 2 announced. 7 matches for each show, which is not bad. But again, you mean to tell me there ain't room for that Andre Battle Royal? Come on, man. And the other tag match. You could have an 8-match card, 2 nights. I'd be fine with that. I'd much more prefer that than a 13-match card or a 14-match card all crammed into one night. So yeah, we'll see. That's what's on tap there. But there's still going to be some left out pieces of talent. Everybody in that Battle Royal, and so far, no Bayley, no Charlotte, and a few others missing too. Perfect opportunity for Iconics reunion. That's true too. That's right, because actually Billie Kay came into that whole promo at the end with her picture or headshot or whatever, and I do think she did hand Carmella her resume on Friday, so they might be teaming the 2 of them up, which could be interesting. So you might get another team added to this. Who knows? On Friday. Not sure how it works, really. After that, we had Bobby Lashley taking on Cedric Alexander. Lashley was just basically going to go out there and kill this guy. Prior to the match, though, Cedric and Shelton jump Bobby Lashley before the bell rings. So the two of them are beating the hell out of Lashley the whole time. I thought there was some crazy swerve going on, because MVP is at the announce booth not sweating it at all. Just continue his conversation with the announce team. I'm like, MVP, Lashley's getting his ass kicked in the ring. I almost thought maybe he was turning on him and joining up with Cedric and Shelton, but then I understood that he's so confident in the almighty Bobby Lashley that it doesn't matter. The 2 guys are whooping his ass. He'll turn the tables. And he's like, I'm not even sweating this. He barely was even looking in the ring. It was actually kind of funny. And then, of course, Lashley does turn the tables on these guys. He's able to dispose of Shelton Benjamin, kick him out of the ring, and beat the hell out of Cedric. And then the bell rings. So now the match officially starts. Lashley dominates at first. We go to commercial. We come back, and Cedric has actually got a little bit of offense here. He's putting up a good fight against Lashley, trying his best. But in the end, Lashley does lock in the Hurt Lock for the win. Immediately after the tap out, Shelton Benjamin hits the ring, attacks Bobby Lashley. Lashley snuffs him out and puts him in the Hurt Lock as well, and basically dominates. This whole thing was a showcase for Bobby Lashley. As of right now, just a few days ahead of this match on Saturday, I'm really hoping Bobby Lashley retains. Even though I'm really disappointed that the Hurt Business is broken up, he's looking strong as hell, and I would hate to see them make him look this good to simply bring it down this early at WrestleMania and have him get Claymored and pinned in the middle of the ring to McIntyre. I don't care how they do it. I don't care what kind of funny business they got to do. I would like to see Lashley retain. And like I said, I'm still holding out hope that we get some sort of a double turn or something. Now, let's assume that, like what we talked about earlier, maybe this match opening the show. Let's assume it does not. Let's assume it goes on last, which honestly it kind of should. It's the title. So going on last, I think, is fine. I'm not against this match going on last at first, but I do like the idea of McIntyre being the first one out there in front of the fans. But if this match does go on last, I worry that the fan response for Drew is going to be weak as it is. And it's a perfect opportunity to kind of flip these guys, because most fans, like myself, are much higher on Lashley right now than McIntyre. I like McIntyre. I still have McIntyre's back. I can already see the same type of bullshit criticisms about him that everybody does about Roman, that everybody says about everybody when they get on top. All of a sudden, all these issues, guy that's been wrestling 20 years, never heard about these issues before. Now he's champ. Now all of a sudden they've got all these problems with his character and shit. So I can already see it happening. The fans just do this. So let's make the best of it and turn Drew McIntyre heel. I almost think that he can, in the role of a badass, I'd much rather see him be almost like a badass heel than a badass babyface, because like I said earlier in his promo, I felt like he was showing way too much respect to a guy he should want to murder for the way he screwed him over and took his title, stole his title from him. I'd be a little bit more pissed off if I was Drew McIntyre than he seems to be. So Lashley is just a more attractive person right now in terms of how over he is, how dominant he's looking, how he looks with the title. I think he looks like a great champion, and I think he deserves a chance to run with this ball a bit. So I'm rooting for Lashley on Saturday, one way or the other, by hook or crook, whatever it takes for him to come out of this as champion, even if it turns out to be somebody cashing in on the bounty on McIntyre ahead of WrestleMania and injuring him or whatever. Even if Lashley has to remain a heel to do this, I'm okay with it. Somebody threw out the possibility of maybe this all being a swerve and the Hurt Business is not really broken up. That would be nice in theory, but that means that Cedric and Shelton would have had to willingly go out there and take the ass kicking of a lifetime just to continue the ruse. I'm not sure if it's worth it to be hurt locked by Lashley for that, but maybe. I mean, at least it would keep the Hurt Business together. So I guess that could also be an option. And like I mentioned earlier, if they want to do the double turn, I'd have Sheamus come out there and help Drew. And if Sheamus is able to cheat and win the U.S. title earlier on, I don't know what night that's on. That might be on night 2. If it's on night 1, hopefully it will precede this. And then you got both guys, holding championships. So that's something we have to think about, is where, does anybody know if Sheamus and Riddle is night 1 or 2? If it's night 1, we could see Sheamus show up in the main event. If it's night 2, I think we might not see him at all. We'll see. I talked about the Bad Bunny promo and all of that, and the fact that match against The Miz has now been changed to a tag match at WrestleMania. Priest and Bunny, Miz and Morrison, that's the way it should have been all along. After that, we got Riddle taking on Ali in a good one-on-one match, but poor Mustafa Ali now has no direction. There's no more retribution, which is good, but now he just seems like, oh my God, this guy's so damn talented, and they don't do shit with him, and it's just frustrating. He's not really in the position on the card right now to be beating the U.S. champ on TV or anything, so I'm not necessarily against him losing in this particular match. I just hate to see a guy this talented so directionless, and WWE just, even when they try to give him something, it's really bad. So hopefully Ali can get back on track here after WrestleMania, pulling hard for him, because we love him. We had Sheamus on commentary during that whole match, by the way, as well. Riddle beat Ali with the Bro Derek. A little stare down with Sheamus after the match, as Sheamus, I think, stood on the announce table. And that's that. U.S. title match at WrestleMania Night 2. Thank you for that, Ryan. So, yeah, maybe my Sheamus idea for the Drew and Lashley match is kind of out the window now. Feels out of place for him to interfere in that and then turn around and come out the next night for a match. Not that that can't happen. It just feels weird. So my instinct is kind of directing me to say no on that now. And that leaves us with the main event. Drew McIntyre taking on Baron Corbin. Like I said, it is in the IWC handbook to hate Baron Corbin. You absolutely must hate him. You have to. It's the rule. But one thing you can't deny is that he can put on good matches, and he always gives guys good matches. And I thought tonight he would be a solid, quality opponent for Drew to beat clean. That's all he was, and he gave him a really good match. This match started at the bottom of the hour, including commercials, went 30 minutes. Fine with that. And I mean, maybe if you minus entrances out, maybe around 20. But still, good match here. Baron Corbin put up a really good fight. In the end, McIntyre claymored him right in the middle of the ring and won. Lashley comes out to the ramp, a little stare down between Drew and Lashley one final time for WrestleMania. And that's that. And that's our big setup. Show goes off the air. And that is a wrap on Thunderdome in Tropicana Field. Everything now leads to WrestleMania, and we are here. We still got SmackDown coming up this Friday, but for the most part, it's time to rock and roll in the festivities. Hall of Fame tomorrow, TakeOver the next couple of days. Special WrestleMania edition of SmackDown on Friday. Give me a break. And then the big show on the weekend. So it's here, man. It is here. Yeah, we'll be talking a little bit about WrestleMania. We'll talk about some more of these matches here as well. We'll talk about the Edge and Roman Reigns stuff and all of that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are talking about Edge. I feel like he still is my odds-on favorite just because of the story and the 10-year thing and all of that. And that might be why Bryan was in there. But I think in my heart of hearts, I kind of am rooting for Daniel Bryan. And I love Edge. I'm like one of the biggest Edge fans in the world. But, you know, I like Bryan too. I think Bryan deserves it. A NATO hero. You're sorry you're late. Watch Raw is okay. Yeah, you better be sorry. What took you so damn long, man? We've been sitting here waiting. Everybody's like, yo, where is Aneto? And I'm like, I don't know. He's late again. So, or she, sorry about that. Whatever. You don't be late again, okay? Make sure you're here. Chris Ludecki's here. Appreciate the $5, dude. I almost think Drew turning heel, then being the U.S. champion and giving that title credibility for a bit would actually do him some good. Yeah, but I think if Drew turns heel, here's the thing. Here's the catch with Drew turning heel. I think if he turns heel, like at WrestleMania turns heel, he's got to win the title. So otherwise your heel turn doesn't feel like it's effective. If you turn heel and then fail to win the title, what the hell did you turn heel for? That was probably the whole point. So unless you mean maybe him turning heel after WrestleMania, which could also be fine. Maybe the Mania after the Raw after Mania, 1 week from tonight. He's out there pissed off about something. Maybe he got screwed over or maybe lost unfairly or something like that. And he snaps and beats the shit out of Tom Phillips or something, or somebody, and just comes off as a huge asshole. Could happen. It could happen. Yeah, I'm hoping that here this year we'll be maybe back on the road. AEW is actually holding their very first house show coming up, I saw, in a couple of weeks. It's going to be at Daly's place. They're not venturing out for this, but it is going to be a non-televised event, live event just for the audience, and that's cool. I'm happy that's happening for them. It'll be interesting to see how fun those shows can be, and everybody going is probably going to have a blast. So we're slowly and surely getting there. A big shout out to AEW, by the way. All Elite Wrestling actually stopped by the chat on Saturday during the podcast, popped in, said hello, hung out with us for like 5 minutes. Very cool, kind of out of nowhere. Right when we were talking about AEW stuff too, I was reviewing Dynamite. It was the Dynamite portion of the podcast when they happened to chime in. So very cool that they stopped by and hung out with us on Saturday. You never know who's watching. Very crazy. Yeah, where is I just saw his name there. What's Nakamura up to? He's got nothing going on? Oh, you know what? I got to respond to this text. You guys want to do a live text response right here? It's something that I must answer right now. I cannot wait. Okay, there we go. Cool, done. Thank you for your patience. What else happened on Saturday? I disconnected my mic, which is funny too. I got all excited talking about something and my hand came right off and disconnected the cord right out of there. Sometimes we have, it's this Friday is the house show. Technical difficulties here. Yeah, Joey, I kind of said the same thing. They did do a recap of Fiend and Randy Orton and everything that's been going on, but they didn't do any segments. So I guess I feel like then if they should have done an in-ring segment on this show, like this should have been, if we weren't going to see the Fiend again, this should have been the time that the Fiend kind of grabbed him by the ankle or whatever the fuck. Might have been more fun that way. Yeah, we got to start thinking about how they are going to bring Brock Lesnar back. At some point, Brock is going to have to turn up, and he's got like so many possible storylines right off the bat. That's something that's pretty good about Brock. Cool about Brock is because he could come in right away, give us a dream match with Bobby Lashley, one that we've always wanted. But on the other side of that coin, equally as interesting, even if maybe possibly more so, what his relationship and his reaction to the Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman relationship is. You know, does Paul Heyman kind of go with the younger Roman? And you got Brock now as a babyface going up against a heel Roman? Because you know that tribal chief shit is going to play into role somewhere. Like if Roman's tribal chief crap keeps being protected the way it is, even if he drops the title on Sunday, but he doesn't get pinned, Daniel Bryan takes that honor, you know, then he can still be playing that game. And if Brock comes out, he can be like, hey, you know, let's try. You're looking at the tribal chief here. You know, I had your number. I owned you, Roman. You know, you beat me one time with a chair over my face. You know, it means nothing. Try to do that to me again. That could be really fun. Or he could have a problem with Heyman. You know, what are you doing? Because when Heyman was with Punk, you know, he kind of dumped him and went back to Brock too. So maybe Heyman always has that loyalty to Brock, although Heyman has turned on him before. Maybe he turns on him again, sticks with Roman, and then Brock is now baby. I don't know, but I think Roman and Brock, their relationship could be interesting, and the relationship could be multi-dimensional. They could have a part of it where they feud again, or they could team up. And I would really actually be okay with that. Think about a modern day two-man power trip. Austin, Triple H, and Vince in the middle, but now it's Brock, Roman with Heyman in the middle. Who's beating those guys? Heyman could be everywhere. Heyman could represent both champions. If Brock goes and wins one of those belts and Roman is champ on the other side, he could represent them both, be on both shows every week with them. And then eventually something might happen if you get closer to Survivor Series time. Both guys are champion. Both guys are also represented by Heyman. And Survivor Series is coming up in a few weeks. Houston, we have a problem. What now? Both of Heyman's guys. He's like Miss Elizabeth at WrestleMania 5. What does he do? That could be interesting. You know, I'd like to actually see where that goes. And it could span Raw and SmackDown, because who gives a shit about the brand extension at this point? To me, anyway, that might not sound intriguing to everybody, but to me, I like it. And I'd be into seeing where it goes, especially if they teamed up. At least, because you know, that's the thing. Even if they did that, even if they did the two-man power trip, think about how short-lived that would be. WWE would not have the ability to remain patient there and book that long-term. They would pretty much implode before it even started, but we would get it for a little while. I mean, the two-man power trip was the same way. They didn't last very long either. I know Triple H got injured in that tag match, but I feel like they were already kind of setting the stage for Triple H to break away from Austin as a babyface. Even at that point, even when they lost the titles that night, assuming Triple H didn't get injured, I would assume there would be a lot of blaming back and forth between the two. They could eventually, you know, could have started another feud, resparked their feud, but now Austin's the heel and Triple H is the face, which is crazy when you think about the hit and run angle and everything. And that could have played into the alliance angle. Who knows where those guys would have landed? Who knows where Austin would have been, or Triple H for that matter, with his wife in the alliance side. Would have been interesting. But I think if Brock and Roman come together, it wouldn't be too long. And Lashley, Drew, that could be interesting too. Brock and Roman versus Lashley and Drew. Wow. I'd be into that match. Holy shit. You could see that, you could see maybe Drew and Lashley forming this respectable, this respect for each other out of their feud here. I still think Drew needs to be pissed at Lashley for a little while for how he screwed him, but maybe out of this angle, some respect is built between the two. And then if Brock comes back and there's a little mutual deal with him and Roman, you could have some epic fucking tag team match, which would be crazy. But, Brock and Roman being the two-man power trip would be a little tough to do, though, because you would think with the egos involved there, neither guy is going to take a backseat to the other, even if they are on the same page, even if they are both heels or both represented by Paul Heyman. You can't expect either guy to say, okay, you're going to be the leader of this and I'll take the Intercontinental title or whatever, kind of like how Triple H did. I don't think either one of those guys is going to back down to the other. Now, if they form this two-man power trip while neither is champion, then it'll be interesting to see who gets the title shots and stuff and what the reaction is there. So that's why I think if they did a two-man power trip, there's no way it could survive weeks and weeks and months on television. It's going to have to fold and going to have to implode at some point. 100%. Mike McGee, appreciate 2 from you. Do you expect Rock to get involved with Roman soon? Maybe by the time they get WrestleMania out here for 39. In Los Angeles, possibly. I still think we're going to have to get, at least I hope, one surprise at WrestleMania. Nothing crazy, no CM Punk, nothing like that. But like I said, a Jericho on a Ding Dong Hello would be fabulous. I'd love to see The Rock come out and just make a quick appearance, come to the ring. That one year he set his name on fire. Do something like that. Maybe Austin coming out to the ring to toast some beers with the fans or whatever. Something, they did the thing, or even though nobody's a big Hogan fan, I know I am not. The fan in me did appreciate what we got at WrestleMania 30. Like, I thought that was really cool. The way it opened with Rock and Austin and Hogan, arguably, really honestly, unless you think about Bruno, and you have to because he's such a big part of those early days. Those are the 3 biggest stars the business has ever seen. And they were all in the ring together. Rock, Hogan, Austin. It doesn't get any bigger than those 3 unless you go to a completely different era and you add in somebody like a Bruno or whatever. But to have those there in the ring, those 3 guys in the ring, because Bruno was never on a WrestleMania other than being in his son's corner at number 1. So he never really was a part of all that. Those guys were a big part of WrestleMania, and have the 3 of them together kind of toasting a beer. To me, I was like a little bit marking out. I really like that. So, maybe they can do something like that at WrestleMania. We get some sort of really cool in-ring segment that's not stupid or silly. They did the thing with Shawn and Mick Foley and Austin where they came down and beat the hell out of like 3MB or something. What was that at 32? So shit like that. NWO and DX came out in the Sting Triple H match, although that wasn't so good. But anything like that, I feel like we don't really have anything for right now at WrestleMania. It's going to have to just blindside us or hit us out of nowhere for fun. And I'm hoping that we get some big, like, holy shit moment. Like Undertaker just lost the streak moment to where, boom, your fingers are immediately going to Twitter. Like, holy shit, did you see that? I want something like that. So place your bets what that something could be. What would you like to see it be? Somebody come back, make an appearance, because WrestleMania, there's a fine line between relying on the stars and not having, or the stars of the past, and then not having any legends there at all, because WrestleMania is a big part of wrestling history now, 37 years deep into this thing. I like to see some of the old timers on WrestleMania because I consider WrestleMania to be a celebration of kind of wrestling and a lot of our childhoods, and grew up. I'm old enough to have lived through every single one of these things, and I remember them all. So I like to see, when Orndorff or Piper or guys like that would come back for WrestleManias occasionally and make appearances. So if we can get some of that, I'd be happy with it, especially if it's something major like a Jericho, or Rock, or Austin, or something going on in the ring in front of the audience. Would be fabulous. So we'll see what happens at Mania. Yeah, or there's another one, maybe a special guest spot on commentary for WrestleMania. Why the fuck not? Because, if you're going to have Jericho appear there, what could you really do? Because you can't really, the companies aren't going to have a really total working agreement. But if you can just have somebody make an appearance, like I said, something small, talk show segment with Bayley, maybe even just run an ad for the Broken Skull sessions, maybe even with Jericho doing a voiceover or record a piece. Join me, catch me tomorrow, and I'll talk about it all. Or, or maybe do a vignette of him kicking a door down or film something, or have him sit in on commentary. That would be perfectly fine too. Just something to have a presence there would be pretty incredible, I think. And I'm pretty sure that like back in the old WrestleMania days, like when TNA was around, I remember Kevin Nash being a guest at WrestleMania as like a guest of Vince McMahon, like in his owner's box when he was working for TNA, I'm pretty sure. So it's not like this stuff is totally out of the question. If Jericho wanted to go hang around backstage at WrestleMania, I'm sure he would be allowed by both sides to do that. So you never know. I wouldn't completely rule it out, as wacky as it is. But Jericho's got his own problems right now on his own fucking show with the Pinnacle, and all that stuff they did on Wednesday I thought was fantastic. That was a really good Dynamite this past week. I got a huge kick out of it. Thank you, Jim. I forgot Bruno was in that Battle Royal. That's right, he was. He would turn up too. He would wrestle as late as 86 or 87. He had like a match with Randy Savage once. Yeah, so he would get in the ring. I forgot about the Battle Royal. That's right. He was in it, but for the most part, Bruno was not a big part of WrestleMania. He had already been long over his run and been pretty much out of the game by the time WrestleMania started. But in terms of WrestleMania itself, I wouldn't even throw Shawn or Bret in there. Those three guys, that was it. That was the pinnacle of WWE, Hogan, Rock, and Austin. So maybe Taker. Cool. If you're wondering who I'm texting Thurgood. I'm donating to help get Kenny out of jail. You know what I mean? 30 minutes away. What's next? All right, Beetle 911, you're saving up cash for Mania next year. They better not give us a lame card like this year. Well, I should be there too. I think that if everything is kind of back to normal in the world and there's normal ticket sales and, people are vaccinated and everything's all right and shit's happening, then next year can be really fun. And hopefully they will put a little bit more time and effort into their storylines next year for sure. And then the year after, I'm going to be here in LA. I'm ready. I'm ready to go to WrestleMania. I was supposed to be there this year. I was all ready for it prior to the pandemic. I'm like, I will be there in Tampa. But then things happen. My God. And then it was supposed to be in LA this year. And I'm like, I'm going to be there this year. And then was not there. Next year, it's going to happen. No, Chris, I did not go to the Rage Party, but we drove to it. We got there the night of the Rage Party, and I didn't have tickets for it or anything. Got my tickets through mail order for WrestleMania that year. I got like I still have my letterhead. Like I kept it. It was like mailed to me from WWE, and it's in the same type of letterhead that a lot of the contracts are given. And so I kept it. I still have it after all these years. And it was basically like an early order form that was sent right from Stamford for WrestleMania. I had to like fill it out and send in a personal check. That's how you had to do shit back then, and mail it back to the company. And they mailed me my tickets way before WrestleMania. And I never got anything for the Rage Party. But when we got there, we drove around, found a place for dinner that had like some live music. And I was like, let's drive. We went and found where it was, but didn't go in or anything. And then, just cruised back to the hotel and crashed. But it was kind of like just Mania, and then immediately home the next day. Wish I would have gone to that though, because I think Vince McMahon danced, and the fact that I wasn't able to watch that live hurts inside. Yeah, SoFi Stadium next year. It's going to be huge. Make your plans if you live in the California area. We'll do a meet and greet or some meetup. We'll do the same thing for WrestleMania as well. I know there's a lot of fans that have been DMing me and stuff. Hey, I'll be in Dallas or Arlington or wherever it is for WrestleMania next year. Let's get together. So we're gonna have to do a meeting. We're gonna have to do a big gathering for everybody. I won't be able to do individual stuff with everyone, but we'll do something. We'll meet at a bar, hang out, have snacks, drinks. We did this at the first SmackDown. We did our Survivor Series a couple years ago. A lot of fun. So we'll be putting that together in the next year. Looking forward to it. Kevin, since WrestleMania isn't looking the best this year, could it possibly be worse than WrestleMania 9? Nah, it won't be that bad. It won't be that bad. I mean, unless it rains. Hopefully the weather is good for Tampa. I will be keeping an eye on the weather this week as we get closer to see what is forecasted so far. Hopefully it's looking good and they won't get rained on. What a kick in the balls that would be. because it is Florida, if the first show back and, you know, life trying to get back to normal, and then it just pours down rain, thunder, lightning, tornadoes, the whole deal. Beware of dog relived. Let's hope not. Hopefully WrestleMania goes off without a hitch, and everything works out. Yeah, I talked about that, Dominique. That's a good idea about Jericho doing Owens and Zayn match. And this is all speculation. I know that Jericho is probably not going to be doing anything at WrestleMania. I'm just saying I wouldn't rule it out. But hitting the ring, nailing Kevin Owens with a code breaker, helping Sami Zayn win, and then leaving and scurrying away would be fun. Or maybe if the entire inner circle just showed up at ringside and Kevin Owens is like, what the fuck? You know, and then Jericho, like everybody minus, or sans Jericho, the rest of the inner circle, and Owens and Zayn are both looking in disbelief. Jericho sneaks in from behind, code breaker to Owens, and then Sami Zayn jumps on top of Owens and pins him, and kind of just does a little no celebration with the inner circle, just kind of a point like, yeah, I'm glad, you know, we did that or whatever. And maybe it can be Sami Zayn like texting Jericho, hey, come help me out or whatever, let's shock the world. Might be fun if they did something like that. And that's it. It doesn't have to lead to anything. We don't have to see WWE showing up on Dynamite and shit like that. Just something little like that. Would even give a rub to AEW. Maybe WWE's like, yeah, use the footage on your show, no problem, you know. Who knows? I think I might be getting a little ahead of myself there with that much involvement, and I think there's probably a better chance that we just don't see Jericho at all. But the fact that he did that, Broken Skull, makes me think anything is possible, and it is WrestleMania where crazy shit happens all the time. Hey, if they beat the Undertaker streak, they'll do anything. Nothing's off the table. Reign at WrestleMania kind of intrigues me. These fools have survived and dodged so many damn bullets with the multiple WrestleManias in Florida, the rainiest goddamn state in the country, and a couple in New York as well, which is also outside and not a very ideal time of the year. So yeah, the fact that we haven't had any major disaster yet at WrestleMania is pretty incredible. So we'll see. I'll eyeball. I know we got a couple people who live in Tampa. I know Antoine does. So if anybody has any forecasts yet, share them. What are they calling for down there in Tampa? Good point. Interesting, considering AEW's WrestleMania is in May and WWE just has theirs, so there could be a little bit of. I would love to see. I don't think I'd want to see a full-blown working agreement to where they're working together to the level that Impact and AEW are working together, because I think that would almost kill it and make it stale before it gets started. But little tiny things. One inner circle appearance at WrestleMania in exchange for Kevin Owens showing up at Double or Nothing or whatever in May, or whatever the pay-per-view, or All Out, or whatever the big one is. Doing that would be fun. A little like TNA and WWE did it back in the day. They sent Christian to cut a promo so they could have Flair for the Hall of Fame. Little things like that I think would be better for the fan than just a full-blown working agreement, because there's no way. Two different philosophies in the company, completely different ideas. And I don't think it's even something AEW would really want to do in the long run. But maybe little tiny things would be good if the companies can just communicate and not have so much bad blood like there was in heat, like there was between WCW and WWE. There's no real reason to despise each other, really. You know, AEW is just another wrestling company. What's the big deal? If WWE is so big and bad, they shouldn't be concerned with them. And it doesn't seem like they are if they're willing to bring one of their centerpieces on a WWE network program. So, interesting world we living in right now. That's true. I forgot about Hurricane Sandy. I didn't remember where that really matched up. They dodged Sandy at 29? Is hurricane season even in March? I lived in Hurricane Alley, man, in North Carolina. I swear it would usually kick up around late September, early September even, or late summer, I should say. But usually it doesn't go through the winter. I don't know when Sandy hit. I saw a little bit of the set construction for Mania, just a little bit, some drone footage that was floating around social media. I got tagged in several times. I've only seen that. So if there's new footage, I'm not aware of it. Mike McGee, appreciate 2 from you. Any NXT surprises? Mania or Raw. Maybe Finn Balor could be. Depends on what goes on between him and Karrion Kross. If he does drop the NXT title, they could maybe bring Finn Balor back to the main roster. Couple of rumors floating around. He might be leaving. I don't know. I hope not. So far, I think he's been better off staying on NXT, so I kind of hope he stays there. But maybe if they feel NXT's in good enough hands, they'll move him up to the main roster. Adam Cole is another possibility there as well, depending on what goes on with him and O'Reilly at TakeOver. I don't know. But I'd be perfectly fine with an NXT surprise at WrestleMania. But you got to think about that post-Mania Raw. Unfortunately, it's not going to have the same vibe as most post-WrestleMania Raws. The last one, of course, was in an empty arena. This one will be in the new Thunderdome, so you will not have that crazy crowd, that bizarro crowd, cheering the heels, booing the faces, throwing around beach balls, doing the wave, singing. They won't all be there this year, which is sad because that's my favorite Monday Night Raw of the year. Usually is that one after the show. It's pretty badass, but this year will be different. So if you're going to have that big post Monday Night Raw surprise, I would do it at WrestleMania. Remember when Brock came back in 2012? What a big deal that was. Man, if you have any sort of thing like that in your back pocket or planned, do it at WrestleMania where there's fans, not in the Thunderdome. That would be my only suggestion there. So I think that 1 week from tonight, when we have that post-Mania Raw, I don't think we're going to see any sort of big surprise because there's no audience. I think any big surprises or any jaw-dropping type of moments should all happen at WrestleMania. That way it's there in front of the crowd. And then we can just be back to Thunderdome business a week from now on Monday. That would be my suggestion or my preference there in terms of any major surprises. Okay, so Sandy must have just hit the hurricane season prior to WrestleMania. So, yeah, but a hurricane would never hit during WrestleMania because it's not hurricane season when it's butt cold like that. Debut Adam Cole as Michael Cole's son. I would not be surprised. And we'll see, too, after WrestleMania, if they do swap some talent around. There has been talk about moving Roman over to Raw. They could do that, especially if Edge wins the title. And then maybe, I mean, it's just all it takes is a Heyman promo. Maybe Heyman can be like, you know what? Roman doesn't need this shit. He can conquer anybody. He's conquered this title. And Edge and Daniel Bryan, you can do your thing with the title. We're going to go over to Raw, and we're going to win that one instead. Or you swap. You put McIntyre on SmackDown, and then you move Roman over to Raw. I don't know. Or maybe you keep everybody where they are. I like Roman on SmackDown. I'm in no big hurry for him to be moved out of there, but the Raw ratings suck, and, you know, that's still the A show in a lot of ways, and maybe WWE wants to move their A star over to that A show. We'll see if they do or not. I would do anything to bring back Clash of Champions on TBS. Yeah, a lot of the big ones always hit around September or October, man. I've been through a bunch on the beaches in North Carolina. I've had more than one birthday. My birthday is around Labor Day. It's in the beginning of September. So I've gone through probably in my life like 3 hurricanes during my birthday, which is kind of funny. All the years living down there. But let's hope that everything works out just fine for WrestleMania. The weather can be temperamental in Florida. Rains a lot. So hopefully it'll all stay dry. But they've been in Orlando a couple of times. They were there for 24. They were in Miami for 28. And were they back in Orlando again after that? 33. Back in Orlando too, right? So yeah, they've been to Florida like 3 times. This is the 4th time, at least 5 if you count last year. In Florida, a couple in New Orleans. They like that part of the country. I'm telling you, Atlanta needs to be in the running too. They got a brand new, beautiful stadium there with a roof on it. Very important. Go to Atlanta. Minneapolis has got one too. I think Ford Field could use another WrestleMania. Maybe for WrestleMania 43, the 40-year anniversary of Hogan Andre. Yeah, SmackDown is the real A show. It is for most fans. I much prefer SmackDown, although SmackDown has not been impressing the hell out of me the last few weeks. I definitely like the show better than Raw right now. I like Roman Reigns. I love Jey Uso. Daniel Bryan is one of my absolute favorites. I'm loving the work Edge is doing. Kind of like his new attitude. I looked in the mirror and I finally saw the rated R superstar. That's good. Like all that. So good stuff over there on SmackDown. I don't even totally hate the Dirty Dogs, even though I can't believe they're bumping that tag match. I don't even care. I don't even want Rey and Dominic to win the titles now. If that would have been at WrestleMania, I think that would have been so cool for WWE to give that moment to Rey. For all the years of service he's put into wrestling just in general, give him a moment winning championships with your son on wrestling's biggest show. Can't imagine a more wonderful honor for a father, and now it's like taken away from him. So this bullshit is on SmackDown. It sucks. That would have been a nice, maybe some fans don't care about that, but I do. I remember looking at pictures of Rey Mysterio in magazines when he was 16, and everybody was talking about Rey Mysterio Jr., this 16-year-old, 95-pound fucking wrestler that's doing the craziest shit. The fact that he was able to have the career that he had, he has been, in my mind, one of the most influential wrestlers there has ever been, and especially how he changed the style. He made it so, where we have guys, smaller guys. Otherwise, the idea of even Seth Rollins winning a title would have been absurd. A guy like Seth Rollins beating a guy like Brock Lesnar clean would have been absurd. Rey Mysterio changed all of that, and he made it okay. I mean, Shawn helped with that a lot too. But, Rey made it okay no matter how small you are. You have a chance to make it in the business. And because of that, that's why we literally see everybody, kind of getting involved in wrestling these days, no matter how you look or no matter what your size. But Rey was super talented. I think he's awesome. I cannot wait until he goes into the Hall of Fame one day. Do you think when he goes in the Hall of Fame, he might do like an unmask? Like we already see pictures of him without his mask on. He wrestled a couple years in WCW without it. He's already, it's not like if he hadn't have ever taken it off, then I would say no. But, we already know, like, it might be cool for him to kind of do it without his mask. I don't know, just an idea. But I would have liked that moment for him and Dominic. I think it would have been cool for them to share that. At WrestleMania. Now they probably won't even win the titles. And even if they do, it's going to be a letdown because it would have been so much better if they were able to do that at WrestleMania. Unless WWE does something slick. I haven't read the spoilers. I probably will because I don't give a shit what happens on Friday. But unless that Fatal 4-Way bullshit ends with some weird ass finish and Dominic and Rey demand a chance or demand a match at WrestleMania on the actual show, maybe on night 2, or a rematch the next day. Tomorrow I want a rematch. And they're like, yeah, fine. And then they win the titles. Then maybe that can happen. I don't know. Otherwise, kind of a shame. Since WWE Network is on Peacock, will they talk about Chris Benoit? I don't know what you mean. I mean, they're not going to talk about him like on regular TV or on the like the Raw and SmackDown shows and stuff. But like any past Chris Benoit matches, they're all on there. They're all on Peacock. So, I don't think they really edited much out about Benoit, but I don't think they're going to just start talking about him on commentary on TV. Benoit's name will not be mentioned in any current stories, or I'm not stories, but TV shows going forward, for sure. Definitely not. Anyway, it's about time for me to wrap it up and get up on out of here. Las Vegas for 40. Las Vegas is a pretty good possibility for WrestleMania 40. I really don't like the fact that New York has got an outdoor stadium. I think they're stupid with building that, or for building that, especially considering that the Giants and Jets share that building. If there was a roof on it, I think they could use it so much more. And it makes me nervous when they go into New York for those shows. But if you did WrestleMania 40 in New York at MetLife, I would like to see, like, how they did the Raw 25 show where they did part of it at Barclays, part of it in the Manhattan Center. I'd like to see that done for WrestleMania 40, have part of it at MetLife, part of it at MSG, because you can't put the whole WrestleMania in MSG anymore. WrestleMania has grown too big. But if you do a combo, that could, and if I was one of the talent, I would want to wrestle in MSG. Like, it wouldn't be like, I thought the Manhattan Center stuff was kind of a letdown on Raw. And when it comes to WrestleMania, everybody wants to be in the big, big stadium around all those fans. For me, I'd rather be in MSG. So I don't even think you'd be doing any wrestlers wrong for the wrestlers that got booked on the MSG show. I don't think that's like a step down or you're not on the main card. No, you're at Madison Square fucking Garden, man. I would totally do that for WrestleMania 40. If they don't do that, then Las Vegas is my pick, because that's a pretty good looking stadium they got going on there too in Las Vegas. I'll have to check that out. Vegas ain't far from me. If they do late Vegas in 40, I guarantee you I will be there. Absolutely. So I should be, hopefully, knock on wood, maybe at the next 3 WrestleManias starting next year. That's what I hope. Hopefully in that time, I'll get a chance to meet everybody. All y'all. Remember when Otis was over? Yeah, just barely. Yeah, J.H. Cars, we talked about those A&E biographies on Saturday. That's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to those because apparently they're all like 2 hours each. And WWE did biographies like 20 years ago. I think around 99 or 2000, they did a bunch. And I know one was on Austin. I think one was on Mick Foley. And I know they also did an A&E biography on the life and death of Owen Hart as well. And there might have been one on Jesse and maybe even another one. So they did a handful of these, and I can't remember who was all in them now, but I taped them all, recorded them. I still have them. I have all those biographies. So the fact that they're now doing this again 2 decades later, they're going to probably double in length and be a lot better produced and much more in depth. I can't wait to watch those. That's going to be good stuff. I think they will be, I said this on Saturday, I think they will be every bit as good as the Dark Side of the Rings, you know, in terms of the production value of the documentary pieces themselves. I think it'll be good. Hey, WWE likes New Orleans. They could go back there for 40, but they were just there, and they did get 30. So I think 40 should be either, it should be the best place for that to be is in New York. But if not New York, maybe, you know, some major, beautiful new stadium like the one in Vegas could be good. They obviously can't come back here because they're already going to be here in LA for 39. So I think the front runners would be New York or Vegas in terms of the biggest markets you could do for 30. Otherwise, yeah, I think maybe New Orleans could be a third candidate there, a distant third. Can't think of where else that would be really appropriate for 40. Plenty of buildings. You got Dallas, you got Arizona, you got Minnesota, you got Ford Field, you got plenty of places, but what's the right place, you know, for number 40? And I think it's New York, Vegas, New Orleans. We talked about that a lot. What if Benoit didn't die, but still killed his family? He'd be rotting in jail right now. And then if he didn't do any of it, I think he'd have some serious CTE problems and brain function. He might be institutionalized or something, kind of like Vern Gagne was. Vern Gagne had all those problems and dementia and all that shit. So who knows where Benoit would wind up. They could do Atlanta for 40. Doesn't feel like a real WWE, you know, place for number 40. But again, new building, beautiful facility. I'm sure they'd make it nice. Delaware. Hell no, Delaware. You crazy. The only thing I know about Delaware is when I used to drive up to Philly back in the day for Christmas or for Thanksgivings and Easters, and I'd have to drive through Delaware a little bit. Didn't seem like there was very much going on there. How's the nightlife in Delaware? Probably not good. But anyway, Thurgood is going to be at my house in just a couple of minutes, so I got to get out of here. So you guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you for hanging out tonight. I appreciate it. For those of you who are here, kind of a low audience, but whatever. It's WrestleMania week. Hopefully tomorrow we'll have a bigger one for the Hall of Fame, so make sure you're here immediately following the Hall of Fame tomorrow. Not sure how long the Hall of Fame is going to air, if it's 3 or 4 hours. So far, I have the stream scheduled for 3 hours after the Hall of Fame starts. So it's a 4-hour show, then we'll postpone the stream another hour. But either way, after the Hall of Fame tomorrow, we'll be up here to talk about it, and we'll add in our NXT TakeOver predictions as well. So that will be tomorrow. Thanks again, guys, for being here. Night 1 of 8 is in the books, and we're done with that. And we'll be back in 24 hours for more fun on this WrestleMania 37 week. Y'all be good. See you tomorrow.